This week I sewed a cardigan, and there were a couple of things that I did a little bit differently when working with this particular knit, and I think that they made a difference in the final product. Hey sewing friends, it's great to see you. I'm Janine, and this is Janine Sews. Thank you for spending time with me today. This is a Friday Sews video, so I will first tell you all about the cardigan, and then I'll share with you a little bit about life and what else has been going on in the sewing room. I try to maintain a modicum of stylishness in what I wear. And something that I have seen a lot of in the past few months is cardigans. Cardigans are such a versatile wardrobe piece, especially when you live somewhere where it gets cold. And I do need more cold weather garb, so decided that I wanted to sew a cardigan. I went through my patterns and I had 3 options available to me. I didn't want to buy a new pattern for a basic cardigan. So I have these 3 options. Simplicity 9272, which is this very basic button placket cardigan that is for ITYs, bamboos, jerseys, lighter weight knits. The second option that I had is Quick Sew 3232. I don't know how old this is, but it's a cute little cropped cardigan that can be worn either open or it can have a zipper on the front. And the third one, I can't find the envelope for this, Butterick 3461. This is a 2002 Kathy Ireland pattern, and I used this previously for the sleeveless top. I made a golf top out of it. This is a V-neck button placket cardigan. After looking at my 3 options, I decided to go with the V-neck button front cardigan. I had the pattern, and I went out and I found some fabric. And I found this Rayon blend, which is a rib knit. This is the right side. It really looks a lot like it was knitted, doesn't it? And then this is the wrong side, which looks like a waffle knit. Again, it's got a lot of rayon in it, and it shrunk at least 10% when I washed it. And it's got 4-way stretch, and it's very soft, like a sweater would be. It's almost a little bit limp. So before I started to sew, I had to figure out how I was going to deal with it. The first question was, there's a placket on the front of this, and how to deal with the placket when you're going to be working with a knit. I had to stitch in buttonholes, and I could have possibly just interfaced a piece of the knit and done a self-facing. Instead, I decided that I would rather go out and find something stable. So I bought this linen. This is the piece where I was doing my little samples. I bought this piece of linen, and the color is really good. And it provided just enough stability for the facings around the front, where I was going to be adding the buttonholes, and then around the neck. When I sewed this, I used my serger primarily, but it was fairly thick. The serger sort of struggled to get through all the layers of fabric. Once I started sewing on my sewing machine, I used a walking foot, of course. And the other thing that I did differently when I was sewing on the machine was I tried using a twin needle. I'm using a twin needle for maybe the second time in my life. And I'm doing the hem of the sleeves for the cardigan. While I do have a cover stitch machine, I never use it, so I am very seriously considering getting rid of it. And that has worked just fine. So I guess The cover stitch machine is going to go and be sold on consignment. I'm just not using it. I used the twin needle for the hem and for the sleeves, and it worked perfectly. I'm embarrassed to say that I had never used my twin needle before. Now I know how it works and how easy it is to use. My cover stitch machine is in its original box with all of its attachments, accoutrements, and it's going off to be sold. The next question was how to deal with the facing. I didn't want the facing to just flop around, and I didn't really want to top stitch it. Didn't want the top stitching lines. I preferred for this to look more like an actual knitted cardigan than a sewn cardigan. And I wound up pick stitching the facing all the way around. There's so much texture to this fabric that there was no way you would ever see the little tiny stitches that hold the facing flat. After the facing was fully attached, then I did the buttonholes. Didn't have any real problems with them. This linen kept everything so stable that it wasn't an issue. And then I went to attach the buttons. Last week, my sewing friend Daphne sent me a Kenneth King Instagram video where he showed how he sews on buttons, and I used his technique. I sewed on these pretty shank buttons, and on the back, I put a little clear button. So you don't have any stitches showing, number one, but also there's no worries that the button is going to pull off. So there's the back side and there's the front side. I don't know. I got these buttons at a little shop, a home shop, and I don't know if they're Chanel replica buttons. I just thought they were quite pretty, and I couldn't decide on what color blue I would have had, so I may change the buttons out at some point in the future. It didn't take that much more time than it normally would. I had to learn how to use the twin needle. That added a bit of time. And then just doing the hand picking around the edge of the facing, that didn't take that much time. It wound up being a fairly fast little project. And let me show it to you now. Here's the cardigan with the rib knit top that I made a couple of weeks ago with the Labella Donna. And this is probably how I'll wear this around the house. Just running out. This is a ready-to-wear 3/4 length sleeve top. It's kind of got a square neck. And I think I actually like this better than over the light blue. I could wear this with a scarf. I've got a zillion scarves, like most of us do. And, you know, scarves just add something. Just, yeah. Super comfortable. This will definitely be a staple over the winter. When I was looking at the different styles for cardigans, I have to admit that I had a lot of flashbacks to not just the 80s and 90s when I was wearing cardigans all the time to work, but also to my grandmas in the 60s. And it wasn't necessarily something that made me smile. I loved them. They looked the way they did, but I don't necessarily want to look that way. And that's one of kind of my concerns about cardigans. And that's why I went with the V-neck instead of the higher round neck. Some people can pull it off completely. I couldn't envision myself in it without either feeling like I was re-wearing something that I used to wear to the office in the 90s, or that I had morphed into 1965 grandma. So that's why I picked that style. I also think that the V-neck is nice because you can see what you're wearing underneath it. And if you have a nice piece of jewelry, it shows. And if you're wearing one of the ever-present scarves this year, because scarves are everywhere too, then it wraps around nicely around your neck. I'm not entirely comfortable with some of the scarf styles, but I will try wearing a scarf, especially when it's colder, because a warm neck keeps your whole body warmer. So that's the rationale behind that particular cardigan style. I'm working on one other little project right now in the sewing room, but I'm excited to sew some of the other fabric that I have, some of the cozy fabric. I think the first thing I'm going to work on next week is another version of this sweater, which is the Pattern Emporium Sweet Cheeks. And I'm going to use the lavender velour. I don't know if you've noticed, but this one needs a high round back adjustment because it constantly pulls back. So I will be doing that before I use this pattern again. Otherwise, there's just kind of a great debate going on in my own mind about whether or not I'm going to sew anything for Christmas. I'm going to sew some crafty things. Maybe. I've got fabric and patterns and all those things. But do I sew gifts for people? Because I don't really exchange gifts with my family. And I don't know. There may come a moment when I'm just compelled to sew something. And then I'll give it to my nieces and then I'll go, oh, thanks, Auntie. They're always very appreciative, but I think things might wind up in the back of my junk drawer. So I don't know if I'm going to sew anything for Christmas. I might just sew things pour moi, for me. Last weekend we went to my husband's work party and it was fun. We had a nice time. I wore my outfit, felt completely comfortable and appropriately dressed. I was very glad that it was a sleeveless top because the room was pretty warm. But I'll tell you one thing I noticed. Maybe 70 or 80 people at the party. Pretty much all of the men were wearing khakis or jeans and a pullover sweater. And all of the women were in sparkles and sequins. I guess it just goes to show you that some of us really love an excuse to dress up. Tomorrow I'm going to a white elephant. And I think that my contribution for the white elephant is going to be liquor or wine, because that's really what all of my friends want. If you don't know what a white elephant is, it's a gift exchange where people can steal your gift. So you pick something out of the pile and you love it. Somebody 10 minutes later can say, thank you very much, I'm taking that from you. They have different names, different places. I think that this one is actually called a Grinch crab, but it's a white elephant. We had our first real snow this weekend. And at our house, we're in the river valley and we get a fair bit of snow. We had 17 centimeters, which is about 6.5 inches, which is beautiful. We do have a snowblower, so it's not horrible to clear the driveway. I went for a nice walk in the woods. It was just so peaceful. I absolutely love it after it snows because everything is just quieter. I absolutely love it after it snows because everything is just quieter. And I know that this is the start of probably 4 months of snow at least. It's okay. I kind of like the winter. Next week is December. This weekend, Thanksgiving. I'm sure a lot of you who are in the States are eating leftovers all weekend. I want to give you a little update on Vlogmas. I've kind of played around with Vlogmas. This year, I've gotten a little bit organized, and I am going to do Vlogmas, but I'm going to do it on shorts. So videos that are 45 seconds to a maximum of 3 minutes, and they'll just show up in the feed. And I'm excited to try something a little bit different where I don't have to go to a lot of work. I can just show you what I'm working on or various things. Everything's going to be sewing related in some way. And I'm excited to start that on Monday. Can't believe Monday is December. And I'll be here for Friday sews, for regular length Friday sew spades. Wherever you are and whatever you have going on, I hope you have a great weekend. If you're getting hit with snow, and I know a lot of you are, drive carefully. The first time out is absolutely the worst. Thank you so much for spending time with me this week, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care.